All right, well, hello everybody. My name is British Brett, and today we're going to be reading through the Steadfast Stewards update, the first of the weekly builds that we're going to be getting. Um, yeah, some really exciting stuff here. If you guys don't know what the Steadfast Steward update is, it is basically a quality of life cleanup design stuff that they're doing where they want the community's feedback in order to kind of guide their changes, right? So unlike how they normally do testing or they normally do updates where they have an idea, they implement it, they give the rough iteration to beta testers like myself, and then we kind of rough out the details, give them some feedback, and then they clean it up and post it to public, and it's not locked in per se, but outside of like huge cryouts of like this is terrible and awful, they're usually like that's it. That's going to be the update. In this case, they've opened basically beta testing up to the public. So you guys are able to go in and go into the coming in hot or the experimental build, depending on if you're Epic or Steam, and you can test these very rough kind of like idea, like thoughts of the devs basically, and see if you like it, if you don't like it, and you can go into the Discord or use their email. I'd recommend going to the Discord and have an actual conversation with the devs. The devs are actually chatting like actively in chat, at least during the week. They won't be active during the weekend. They don't get paid to be here on the weekend. And going through and being like, okay, well, this is actually what we our intent behind it, which is something they don't really do very often. They're telling you, actually giving you dev notes and things and saying, this is what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And then the community can say if it hits or if it doesn't hit. And they've been really, really proactive with people kind of going back and forth in the community. So definitely would recommend going to the Discord and talking to them. Hi, Sed. How you doing? How you doing, Pookie? So let's read a little bit about this. Welcome to the first Steadfast Steward experimental build. In order to test our first set of changes, head over to our public beta branches on Steam, Epic, or GOG. Okay, I didn't know GOG had this. For full details on what to expect, you can read a little bit more about it. That's basically what we just talked about, but this is the first build. So the first thing is going to be the UI and quality of life updates. There's actually been quite a lot of UI changes, and you're going to see that when we play later today. One of the biggest focuses has been the academic view. It now displays when skills ignore tokens, when they require certain conditions, speed, stress, and resistance. So there is quite a bit more information in the AV view for the most part. And yeah, here we go. We've got a dev notes. They actually get the intent behind it. We've opted to start with dynamic information and then plan to update specific enemy info where it makes sense, such as bosses and unique enemies. What they mean by dynamic information is instead of updating every enemy specifically, they've gone in and basically made like a rule, that the game goes in the academics view. If this ability ignores something, state it here, right? So it saves them a lot of time. They don't have to go through every single enemy in the game and like make custom ones, but they will probably have to go through and iterate on some of the more complex enemies. Academics view should provide a rough, generalized outline of what an enemy can do and from where, but should remain accurate without adding confusion. There are many enemies in the game that will likely be missing or have incorrect strings. Please let us know if so. Again, there have been a lot of like string issues. Like you'll see like a bunch of teal text where there's like a string, which basically just means the game doesn't know how to present that information properly. So it throws the code at you. So very, very cool. Academics view is one of those things. Sorry, like nose is runny. Still nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so academics view is something I don't use very much. Obviously, I've gotten to the point where I don't need that information regularly, but I think for new players it's super important, and I do think it's a cool idea. I've never been a massive fan of the fact you have to kind of like load into it though. I do like Darkest Dungeon ones, like, you just mouse over the enemy and all the information is like very readily displayed, which they do, right? But those deeper things you have to look into it, I guess, to see like how their abilities work and stuff. So that makes sense. I mean, it's I don't know. It just is the way it is. Tooltip formatting adjustments. Formatting has been adjusted to be more readable. I actually really like this change. So one of the biggest things is that operator symbols have been removed and condition order has been moved around. So, for example, before it would say if flame is less than sign 50 effect, now it will read as effect when flame is under 50. It just reads much nicer. It's much less like math in your face. I know some people really enjoy the less, I mean, the less than, greater than, equal than, all that stuff is much more concise, but it doesn't read very nice in the mind. So, hey, social mechanic, how you doing? So I think that's a nice change. You beat the black stake, dude. You're killing it. I hope you guys are having, I'd say a good time is not the right terminology for what you guys are doing this weekend, but I hope you guys are doing well. And congrats on beating black stake, dude. That's awesome. All right, token glossary improvement. Certain token. This is a really good change, actually. I'm super excited about this one. It's kind of wonky right now, but I am excited for it, which is that certain tokens will now appear depending on the context, such as hero shrines, special encounters, regions, etc. So basically, that giant glossary of all the tokens is now going to adapt to what's like on your screen. If you don't have the Hellion, you're not going to see the Winded token displayed in there. If you have Vestal, you're going to see Vestal, and then you're going to see whatever consecration token is applicable to her path, which is really nice. Stealth tokens have several tokens have been recolored and recategorized for consistency. This has been kind of divisive in the community. Every token has basically been turned. All the orange tokens have been turned into like gold and teal, so that they're considered positive, but the teal element makes them like special. I'm okay with most of them. Stealth is going to take me a little while to see as gold, even though that's totally fine, because it has always been a positive token. It should be gold. I think my biggest issue with this is less that it doesn't look good and more that it just looks different, and I just have to get used to it, right? My brain is so like hardwired to like how the tokens look that them being changed is kind of jarring. So I'm gonna have to get used to that. But I think making them consistent is a really good idea. This is a huge one. People really asking about this one. Tokens now have duration that display in tooltips, the same as dot durations. So now it will tell you if you have a block token that it's going to last 2 more rounds or 1 more round or whatever the case is. I believe like dots, it'll only display the one that has the longest amount left, right? So if you apply a block token on round 1 and another one 2 rounds later, it's going to say you have block for 3 more rounds, even though one of them is going to expire next round, because you're still going to have a block token for the next 3 rounds, right? It's the same thing with dots, right? It displays the longest lasting dot, but you might notice you have 20 dot 1 round, it'll say 3 rounds, and then the next round it'll be 16, and you're like, well, where'd the 20 go? It should say, but there was a dot that was applied earlier on, right? That I think there's only so much information you can display. It'd be really bad if they tried to make the tooltip like broken out into like, this dot will last 1 round, this dot will last 2 rounds. Like, ugh, no, thank you. Dot duration tooltip color now matches dot color. This actually looks really nice. I didn't think this would be a big change, but it looks clean. I like this. Heal skill tags are now displayed, so you can actually see when there's a heal tag on a skill. I don't know if that means that maybe this will help with like maybe they'll make new items that have like heal tag conditions. So sewing some clothes. I mean, I need to learn how to. I mean, I kind of know the basics of sewing. I had to learn in the military, but like it's such a good skill to have. Combat item tooltips now display if it's targeting a friendly target or enemy target. This is a nice little change as well. Hey, Lav, how's it going? I actually don't like this song. I don't know why this one always comes on. So, combat item. Oh, sorry. Ranked locked tokens now have an icon below them in combat and are called out as rank locked in the description. So if the token is rank locked and not enemy or like hero locked or enemy locked, it has like this little white line under it. I think it's fine. It doesn't look amazing, but I don't know how else they could display that without making it like some crazy like, well, it's like if we take a token and make it triangular tokens or, lock to the rank or something. This is a change I actively dislike. Health bars now have quartering lines. Dev note, this is something we're testing out to help provide additional clarity for health threshold requirements. The visual treatment and presentation is subject to change. I hope they do change this. I understand the reason for this, and the big thing is for heals, right? It's difficult sometimes to tell when you're at like the threshold for a heal, because you might be like right on the line. I don't think this really does a great job. I think it kind of clutters the health bar, but I understand the necessity for it for some people, myself included. I definitely have had times where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm right there. So I think this is a good change. I do hope that eventually they make this a toggleable option once they figure out what the look of it needs to be. I do hope that they like go, okay, this is an option you can turn off and on. Hero tooltips no longer change width or move position when displaying upgraded info. I think this is just a clutter thing. Trinkets that deal damage through an effect in combat will display the name in the pop text besides the damage value. Coming at the top, alleviate confusion while enemies would die from reverted. Oh, okay. So, like, if reverberating readout procs, it'll say reverberating readout 2. Is this a new patch? Yeah, Vren, this is the Steadfast Steward patch. So this is part of the new weekly updates we're going to be getting, where the community has input on all the changes happening. So the devs are like, this is like a beta patch, and you guys can like give your feedback to the devs directly. They're actually active in the Discord, chatting with people about it, and then they'll adjust it as it happens. So very, very cool. This is going to be an update every week for at least, I think it's for like a month and a half. I think they're doing it. So we'll see. Inventory and Vitrin can now be accessed at the crossroads respectively with I and Z on the keyboard. Or okay, cool. Oh wait, no, this is actually huge. I didn't even think about this. Can be accessed at the crossroads. Hell yes! Finally, I can remember what items I rolled at the beginning. That's fun. Very cool indeed. Very, very cool indeed. In effects now displayed an in sign tooltip. This is a nice one. There's a lot of passive in effects that happen. So like you don't really know what the ins do sometimes, like the Vestal's secret or whatever. We just figured it out over time. This will actually tell you what they do. Retreat effects now displayed in the retreat button tooltip. This is good, so that way you know what you're getting yourself into. Changed the default font size on PC and Mac to be slightly smaller. Added larger font size option to gameplay menu, and we'll use that as the default on Steam Deck and other consoles. Okay, this is a good little accessibility thing. All right, guys, here's some big changes, gameplay changes. This is one of the largest changes, and this is definitely one of the most controversial ones that we've seen. Crits no longer increase the duration of dots by +2 for both enemies and heroes. So before, if you crit with a dot, it would last for 5 rounds, not 3. So this is a big change. The dev note here is we want to experiment with dot's power level, as well as opening up new avenues to grant these kinds of effects from different sources. By removing the generic plus round duration on all crits, we can diversify with more ease. Other benefits of crits still remain, such as the 20% resist piercing. Personally, I love this. I think dots are overpowered, and I know it's a single player game and people go, well, let people have power. Then build these into abilities as like an upgrade, right? One of the things I always hated, especially with like Plague Doctor, for instance, was just that her combo consumption was just more piercing. When it was like, that's boring. Why not just make it so instead of getting just the piercing, or maybe give her the piercing and also give her the additional dot rounds if she hits a combo enemy, right? So then it becomes more specific. Like if upgraded Plague Grenade does +2 dot when it hits a combo target, then all of a sudden that feels like a much more like worthy use of combo tokens. This is definitely experimental. I know some people are really happy with it. I know some people are very upset with it, but I think this is a great I think they're being bold here and they're trying it out, and I really appreciate that. We'll see how it plays out. I definitely think the biggest issue with this is going to be that if this sticks, which I get a feeling it will. Hey, Side, how's it going? They're going to need to do a big pass on every dot item and every dot hero just to make sure that they're built with this in mind, which right now they're not, right? So this is something to keep in mind. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think this is a good change to try. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But personally, on paper, I really like the idea. Increased chances to encounter the Crypt Keeper in the Catacombs. I get the feeling that people were just never seeing him. So default in-quirk chance. This is a big one. Default in-quirk chance has been reduced from 80%. I didn't realize it was 80%, by the way. That is crazy. To 50%. And Vestal Secret guarantees 1 quirk instead of 2. This is a big one. They might spread. Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly what they should do, Scion. Dev note, we've heard feedback that in Confessions, quirks are replaced to ins too frequently. Yes, they absolutely are. This is an experimental change to see how it feels. There's a chance these values will be reverted if they aren't well received. I personally hope they are well received, because I think, like a lot of people, I like quirks, but like in Confessions, I roll through quirks like 4 or 5 times sometimes. There's so many ways to roll quirks in the game that it's really hard to build around a quirk, right? Ancestor statue trinkets have been changed from indelible to ancestral. I still have never found one of these. I've only fought this fight once and we didn't win it. But the trinkets look awesome now. They have this really cool like teal and gold border. It kind of matches the like special token colors now. I think they look really sick. So plus adding this, I think just allows modders to create like more ancestral trinkets and stuff and use that. Very cool. This is a cool change. I'm really interested to see about this. Now, after killing the Kyrogen, patience can be found in Gaunt Road battles for 3 regions. This is a really cool concept to me that, like, once you kill him, like, you kind of open this, like, Pandora's box of these really tough enemies, like, appearing more often. This change is intended to add moments of player reactivity where the game reacts based on choices and influences from the player. That's cool. I think that's a really cool idea. We're planning to update military barricades and warlord encounters to do something similar. I'm not sure what that similarity would be. Maybe it's that like military, if the warlord dies, that like military guys can spawn in like pillager fights because they don't have a leader anymore, so they like go and join the pillagers, right? So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I hate patience so much. Yeah, they may need to like adjust how the patients work when they're not with Kyrogen. Like maybe it should be that they get like a passive buff in the Kyrogen fight that gives them additional health or something, and then outside of that they have like normal health or something. I don't know. Single leech is no longer dropped by the Kyrogen and now has a 5% chance to drop from any patient. I will say this change is nice. It's low, but you can find passive disease heal throughout the game now. So like you kill the Kyrogen, you open up that option. That's cool. Elite battle advantage no longer has +1 speed. Thank you very much. We already have hastened enemies. Hastened battle advantage has been reduced from +4 to +2. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm assuming that means speed has been reduced. It didn't say speed specifically, but only hero trinket and hero signature in item hero goals will generate when the altar of... Okay, so this is a good one. Once you've beaten, like, unlocked the Altar of Hope, you no longer have to worry about getting candles as, like, a hero goal, which is good in my opinion. Yes, it's going to lower the amount of candles you get, I guess, throughout runs, but at the end of the day, like, I'm looking to get those cool trinkets and stuff, so... That basically means every hero will have the chance of getting, like, an item or something pretty easily. Hero trinkets are now pre-rolled for hero goals. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing that means that, like, I don't know. They're pre-rolled. I'm not quite sure what that means. Cheats candles in. Yeah, I cheat my candle. I need to cheat some more candles in, actually, because I'm very low. I'm at, like, 200 candles. Heroes seem to still have candle goals, at least until you complete them. Interesting. Okay, that's probably a bug. We should probably report that. This is a huge change. Wheel and armor now have scaling effects based on the number of wheel or armor rather than only effects when full. It is no longer a binary system. This is something we've been asking for a long time. So now if you have, even if you only have 1 token, you still get a positive effect from it. And once you max it out, you keep that. And so like if you have the stagecoach items that increase your max, it doesn't scale it more, but it stops you from, it keeps you at the max while you're like above the 3 threshold, which is really cool. True entropy now has a chance to apply stealth. Okay. Champion enemies now have a champion tag displayed. I think this is just a clarity thing, which is good. This is a huge change. Added Altar of Hope location, the Dam. This is a run mutator area, finally, that offers a toggle to enable retreating in confessions, selling at the hoarder in confessions, and having the mountain appear at all inns. I'm hoping that there will be more things that come to this, but this is a good start. There are also plans to add additional options where appropriate. The name is also a work in progress. So we want to allow retreat to be an option in confession, but we want to retain the intention of making the most out of bad situations. The successful retreat effects and confessions are as follows. I think this is too much personally. 3 loathing and 1 stress for every... Is that -1 stress for each hero? Does everybody lose stress getting out of it? Interesting. All values are subject to feedback and adjustment, and the starting values are intentionally high to ensure the impact is felt. I think this would be fine if it was 1 loathing with like a 60% chance to be 2 loathing. I think that would feel like you guarantee a loathing. A lot of times you're going to get 2 loathing, but 3 loathing like is almost guaranteed to max out your loathing a lot of times, especially if you're in a situation where you're so rough up that you can't take a fight. It probably means you've already had a fight recently, and that you're further into the run and you've been beaten up really bad, and that your loathing is pretty high. I don't know. Shambler's Eye replaced on crit Binding Shadows. What? What is this even saying? Shambler's Eye replaced on crit Binding Shadows, gain unchecked power to gain on kill unchecked power. Does that read as English to anybody? This is just like trinkets. Oh, okay. So on Shambler's Eye, they replaced the on crit ability of Binding Shadows from gain unchecked power to gain on kill unchecked power. Okay. That's okay. Man, we're not even close to reading through all of this. Fixes, general string fixes, general animation fixes, fix camp travelogue incorrectly displaying quirk sources from in. Spoiler, fix an issue where strange access did not invert crit tokens. What does it invert a crit token to? Weakness? There's no opposite for crit tokens. Does it just get rid of them? Fixed an issue where more skills showing up in the affected skill list on some paths than pass seals than intended. Okay. Now we get to the real juicy stuff. The Occultist. The Occultist has had his first pass of changes, and boy howdy. It probably is blind mechanic. You're actually right. Boy howdy, is there a lot here. So before we get into this, I do want to remind everybody, these are experimental changes, okay? I know a lot of people are upset with some of these changes. That's totally valid. Make sure that you express that in a kind way to the devs in the Discord or via the support email. All these changes are subject to change, but you know, for them to make changes, they have to be bold and do things that are aggressive and then tone them back is generally, I think, the better way to do things. Don't start small, start big, see if people are okay with it, and then tone things back as necessary and as needed. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how the Occultist has been changed. There are some things I dislike. There are many things I like. I definitely think he needs another passover, right? But I really like the direction that they're going with him. So that's, yeah, some stuff is really nice. Some stuff really isn't. Again, we just have to figure out he's definitely going to be more fun to play, I think. He's just not going to be as aggressively good. There is one change in particular that I really hope they revert, at least on his Wanderer path, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So, dev note, the Occultist's core kit has been adjusted to strengthen certain identities while maintaining or improving his nature as a mixed support/offensive hero with extremely flexible positioning. Additionally, the big three unchecked power skills have generally had much of their raw power moved into their base, more costly versions, with the primary goal of mastery value being reduced activation cost and incremental improvements, or additional effects such as shuffle on Anamnesis or block ignore on the burning stars. So basically, the core ability has got all the oomph. Upgrading it just makes it easier to use it. So I guess that's kind of good. Depends how you think about it. On Wanderer, unchecked power burn chance increased. Okay, so the unchecked power token has been changed drastically. It now differs on every single one of his paths. It's kind of Vestal-y in that sense. But instead of it being like only good, it has like upgrades. It has an up and a down, which I think is very Warlock, right? Like you're giving up something to gain power. That feels like a Warlock, which is basically what the Occultist is. I like that change personally. So the first thing is the burn chance is increased from 33% per token to a flat 100%. So he will proc a burn every single round. The burn value now scales with tokens from 1 to 3. So the more tokens he has, the more burn he procs, either 1, 2, or 3. And the burn duration has been reduced from 3 to 2 turns. It can now be resisted. So he will proc every single round, but you can resist the burn. So that's good. You can use a lot of things in the game to resist the burn. We wanted to make unchecked powers penalty something you could engage with, while also making its penalty a bit punchier to better accomplish a sense of this power chipping away at his health. There are now options to build around resistance or around effects that respond to the presence of burn dots with greater reliability. Abyssal Artillery Plus no longer consumes unchecked power to apply stun. Abyssal Artillery Plus now grants unchecked power on crit per target crit. We wanted to provide an additional but not entirely reliable way to generate unchecked power. Area of effect skills provide multiple opportunities to store crits, increasing the odds of a lucky unchecked power generation. This is fine. I don't know if this is a super, like, I don't like this per crit thing. I think this is a really hard way. I think this is a gamble, and gambling is fine in this game. Like, there's a lot of abilities that are gambles. I just don't know if this is a great, like, I think they might need to modify how he can get crits. I guess maybe you really just want to try to get crits on him if you can, because if you can get constant crit generation on him, then like you're going to be feeling the burn really good. Is this a playtester in action? It is, Vec. How you doing? Put in lots of mastery. I really liked Warlock, actually. I've played him a fair bit. It's the only path that I've really given some time for, and I really enjoyed Warlock so far. Again, I do think there are some things that are needing changes, but I overall love the direction, though. But anyway, continuing on with Wanderer. So yeah, Abyssal Artillery has had that change. I think this means that I don't know, can it stun now? Does it just have a base chance to stun, or is the stun just removed entirely? I think it's just been removed entirely in lieu of this, right? So yeah, no stun at all. Okay, yeah. Binding Shadows Plus no longer reduce debuff resistance versus combo. Binding Shadows and Binding Shadows Plus now ignore stealth. I like this. I think this having a stealth ignore is very thematic for him, especially with this ability. Binding Shadows damage has been increased. Binding Shadows chance to gain unchecked power is increased to 100% when the Occultist has stealth. Okay, so the Occultist is now a stealth hero, by the way. Binding Shadows now grants 1 stealth when hitting a target with combo. I think this is a very thematic change to this ability. It also gives it a lot of utility. If you can get ways for him to generate stealth outside of this ability, you get a really reliable way of generating unchecked power. The damage has been increased on plus. Yeah, this is all the same. And now grants 2 stealth when hitting a target with combo. So now gets stealth 2 stealth if he hits a target combo on plus. Binding Shadows has been worked to provide a more unique identity, improve reliability of up generation, and introduce some stealth and stealth interaction. I think him having stealth makes total sense. Like he like slips into the void kind of deal. Yeah, I think I know there's some concern that you can get like a fairly reliable all stealth team now, but even still, you have to seriously play into that, especially considering the fact one of those heroes is going to be duelist, and like to get her to stealth consistently is not super easy. So I think this is a good change. This is the change I dislike actively right now. Demon's Pull no longer clears corpses. This is a change that, sorry, I'm skipping song here. This is a change I'm really not happy with. I think this is a core part of his identity, personally. At the very least, this should be on one of his paths. Maybe not Wanderer. Maybe with these changes to Binding Shadows, it's like too strong now. But this feels bad to me. I'm not quite sure. Okay, yeah, let's see. Here we go. Demon's Pull now has the same unchecked power stun as the mastered version. Demon's Pull was widely considered too good in its unmastered state. So the corpse... Oh, wait. Oh, so he does have corpse clear still. It's just only unmastered. They don't say that in this. Okay. Okay, that's not as bad. I thought it was completely removed. I guess that's not terrible. It definitely gives you a reason to want to upgrade it, because you never really wanted to upgrade it before. There was very little reason to. I'm not as mad. I thought, yeah, okay. Additionally, in order to keep its potential consumption of unchecked power at a consistent point of consideration across the skill, the stun has been added to the unmastered version. Okay. Not as mad about that now. I do think that the corpse, maybe on the unmastered, it could clear like 1 corpse, and then like it just clears a random corpse, and then on the mastered it clears all corpses. I do understand where they're coming from, that this ability was like super strong. It really was. Just, I think it needs some tweaking still. But I'm not as upset now. I realize that the mastered version still has it. It definitely was an issue that this ability was not one that you really cared to master outside of just giving it a little extra damage. Giving that, it does give it some identity. The pull effect and a corpse clear. Oh, the pull effect being, yeah, I mean, the thing about the corpse clear, right, is that it kind of naturally is a pull, right? If you remove corpses, it's almost always going to just remove the enemy anyway. So it's kind of like, that was why it was very powerful, right? Is it, even if it missed or whatever, you almost always get the pull. So I think there's some tweaking here to be done, but okay. Sack stab damage has been increased. Now gains plus 100% damage when targeting a corpse. This is an interesting change. Sack stab's damage range has been slightly tightened to increase the chances of killing blows and subsequent up generation. As this kill effect applies to corpses, we decided to make it much easier for sack stab to land kills on those in particular. Yeah. I don't have any issues with that. I don't know how often I'm going to use this. I guess this works super well with Larval Carrion Eater. Larval Carrion Eater users rejoice. Vec, how you feeling about this? Carrion Eater, like, Occultist has a base heal and crit generation with Carrion Eater, so that's cool. Moving something from rank 4 to rank 2, you also move something to which benefit is lost on this bit. Yeah, that's true. Again, I think it needs some tweaking. I understand why they changed this. I just think they need to really give it another pass of like what they want to do with it. There's a lot happening in Demon's Pool right now. All right, Weird Reconstruction Bleed has been reduced from 3 to 2. This is really, I'm happy with that. It will now apply. So Weird Reconstruction can now give somebody stealth when consuming uncheck power on the upgraded version. Interesting. Being a signature skill, we decided to differentiate it across all paths. So it's weird is different on all paths now. This is a really, I kind of like this. I think it's funny. While leaving the core of the skill completely changed, aside from reduction in unmastered bleed, as it could often result in significantly more damage than recovery. I like this. I think it's kind of cool. The idea that he like rebuilds somebody and then like shoves them into like a pocket dimension they can't be seen or whatever. Like, that's cool. I think it's fun. I like what they've done with Weird on pretty much all the paths. I think it gives it some identity, and like Weird Reconstruction on Warlock is insanely good, by the way. We'll talk a bit about more of that, but yeah, I think this is cool. I think this is very thematic. I think this is fun. It doesn't get rid of the like zero crit bleed. I hope they never get rid of it. I know it's stressful and annoying, and sometimes it sucks when you get a zero crit or zero heal. That is so core part of the Occultist. It is the meme, and sometimes you just need to lean into the meme, even if it's not ideal. And I think this is a good way of working around that. All right, Anamnesis, the ability that very few people ever clicked. Launch ranks has been increased from 1-2 to 1-2 and 3, so it's more flexible. Unchecked power requirement has increased. Damage has increased from 1 to 2 to 2 to 4. That is a significant change. I mean, that's like 100% more damage, but still. The bleed has increased from 3 to 4. That is a lot of bleed. If you hit all 4 targets, that's a lot of bleed. The damage is still the same on plus. It's still 2 to 4. The crit was increased by 100%. This, I guess, is the big change. It now applies shuffle to all targets, which, like, yeah, sure. Has been rebalanced to improve overall value as an up skill by improving the damage bleed and adding additional disruption. I guess I'm more likely to click this. Yeah, don't try this in the sprawl. Yeah, I think this is fine. I still don't think it's going to be something a lot of people super duper click, but I can feel like there's a lot of good builds that you can get around this if you can get the up generation to make this operate for you. So yeah, you can like kill people, get corpses, and kill the corpses. Yeah, there's value here. Burning Stars no longer applies combo. Okay. Unchecked power has increased from 2 to 3 on the base version. Again, they talked about how the base version is going to get increased. That way the upgraded version lowers the cost, right? The damage has been increased from 8 to 16 to 12 to 18. That lower, like, that's a huge change on the lower end. Like, that is a guaranteed 12 damage is big on base, by the way. The crit has been reduced. I think that's fine. No longer ignores block. The Burning Stars has been adjusted in accordance with the previously mentioned design philosophy, while also retaining some of its overwhelming power in. Okay, ignoring block was something I really liked about it. Okay, I don't know how I feel about this on Wanderer. I guess it's still a solid ability. It's just a damage bomb, and that's it. There's nothing else that goes on with it. There's other abilities that make it more useful, or other paths. Malediction cost has increased. No longer applies a dot-oriented buff. It now ignores dodge, thank you. No longer decreases the target's bleed, blight, and burn resist. It now ignores debuff resist, which is great. That's cool. Malediction now applies a debuff that applies combo to the target on turn start for 3 turns. Malediction now applies Malediction Plus applies a debuff that applies combo to the target on turn start for 5 turns. Man, I guess this is a good boss thing, right? You put this, it's always generating combo. There's a lot of heroes that really, really want that combo generation, and this is basically passive combo generation for up to 5 turns, which is good, right? Oh, Burning Stars Plus still ignores block. Okay, thank you. That's good. That's good. Again, I'm fine with them doing that because they need to give value for the upgrade, right? And that's good value for the upgrade. Yeah, I don't know. We decided to experiment providing unique versions of Malediction for each path. The previous dot-oriented Malediction is moved for Aspirant, while the Wonder Ronin is a version designed to facilitate combo-heavy parties. I mean, this makes the Leper just like, he loves Occultist even more now, right? If you get, but like, the problem I have with this, right, is just the setup required. To get 3 unchecked power tokens is going to take at least 2 rounds, if not more, right? And then you land it, and then so this is definitely like a boss killing item, and Malediction has always been a boss killing item, right? Or a boss focus item. It's for enemies that take more than 2 or 3 rounds to kill. You know, this is good against Exemplars. This is good against any of the act bosses. This is good against any of the final bosses or any of the mini bosses. So this has its place. It's just not going to be for a large portion of the run. It's just a lot of setup, and that's kind of the issue with the unchecked power right now. Again, I don't want them to just like, I mean, Warlock now has like a just passive ability that allows you to generate up. I think that needs some flair, by the way. I love the passive thing. I just think it needs some flair. Anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. Some multi-action bosses. Oh, really? Yeah, that is interesting. It's a turn debuff, yeah. They maybe need to look into that. Yeah, combo is turn-based, isn't it? It's not... Okay. Well, that's something they need to look into, I guess. Not very chaotic anymore, yeah. All right, Ritualist. This path no longer has the base 33% chance to receive vulnerable on turn start. This path no longer has innate debuff resist piercing on curse skills. This path no longer has a chance to gain positive tokens when using curse skills. The Ritualist has been updated to incorporate his debuff-oriented nature into his mechanics in a less passive way, while also leaning on his curses for a more path-appropriate way of generating up to spend on his skills. The Ritualist benefits from some of the updated Wanderer elements as well. So this is where up changes based on each of the paths. Up grants plus 10% debuff resist piercing per token. It reduces his debuff resist piercing per 10% per token. In addition to up standard burn, we wanted the nature of up on paths to reflect the path itself. So the previous innate debuff resist piercing and his curses is now an element of the token rather than suffering random vulnerable tokens. The Ritualist now loses some of their own debuff resistance as the token stack grows. I love the unchecked power changes. I love that like give and take. I talked about this earlier. I think that is very Warlock. It is very on brand for this kind of skill set. Maybe it needs some tweaking, but the idea is there. I'm glad it's not just like Vestals where it just gets more and more powerful. Like it comes at a cost, right? Abyssal Artillery is now a path skill. Okay. Abyssal Artillery does not grant unchecked power on crit. Abyssal Artillery now grants a speed token on crit. As it can be important to land curses before an enemy or other hero acts, particularly in the case of weakening curse, we decided to add a chance of speed token on Ritualist kit. This also helps balance up generation between Wanderer and Ritualist by differentiating their generator skills and methods. That's only on plus that he gets the speed token on crit, right? So can he get 2? You can't get 2 speed tokens, right? So I'm a little confused on that one, right? Because I guess you just have 2 chances to land crits, so you're more likely to get a speed token. But if they both crit, you still only get 1 speed token, right? Interesting. Okay. Binding Shadows is now a pass skill. Binding Shadows or BS and BS Plus launch ranks have increased to every rank. Okay, so he's very rank flexible here. Does not grant up on this path. Okay. Reduces the target's debuff resist by 20% for 3 rounds when he lands on combo. And on plus, it's by 30% for 5 rounds. So to keep an amped version of the former Wandering BS with this was the right path for it. Well, unchecked power assists the occultist in landing his own debuffs. Binding Shadows can help the rest of the party land theirs. Duration is measured in rounds in order to have it have more value against multi-action bosses. Okay, interesting. Yeah, using combo to set up for the setup. Yeah, I'd have to play with it to see how it feels. Sack Stab does not grant up power on kill. Does not gain the additional damage versus corpses. He can generate up more effectively via curses. We decide to remove the on-kill element for Sack Stab now in order to balance generation. And this is a fine thing for them to do, right? Like you don't want to just like have the paths be more upgraded versions where it's like, okay, I can generate up this way and this way now. Okay, fine. I think that Sack Stab loses its identity on this path, but then again, that's kind of the point, right? If you want to play with Sack Stab as being an identity skill, then play on a different path. You can't have everything on all paths, and I think some paths need to get kind of gutted for that. So understandable. We'll see what the skills do later. Weird Reconstruction has been adjusted to match Wanderer. Okay, so the bleed has been changed. It now removes all negative on the tokens while consuming unchecked power. Okay, that's cool. That like weird on this one, removing all negative tokens has a lot of benefit in certain places. This can be huge against the baby. Malediction now ignores dodge. I'm really glad this is a thing. The damages or the up generation or requirement has been increased to 3. That's going to be on all of them, I imagine. No longer applies the dot-oriented debuff. No longer reduces the target's resistance. It ignores debuff resist. It now applies a debuff that grants the attacker a random positive token when hitting the target. This lasts for 2 rounds. Does the Malediction Plus increase how it does it? No. Malediction Plus now inverts all strength, speed, block, and dodge tokens on the target when it is initially used. Why no crit? Malediction has been given a unique identity per path. This was inspired by the old Ritualist proc chance for positive tokens when using curses, but expanded to allow other party members to benefit as well. 2 rounds doesn't seem like a lot for me personally. I think this should be 3 rounds, but yeah, we stole Strange Actions. This is an interesting one though. The invert, like, that's cool. Really, again, this is really good for bosses. I do wish it would invert crit into blind. So maybe we need to make that call out. Vulnerability Hex, tokens reduced from 2 to 1. Tokens reduced from 2 to 1. Oh, vulnerable tokens reduced from 2 to 1. Okay. Now grant 1. So using a curse grants him unchecked power. Hey, yeah, I think it's just the boss skill, right? It seems strange to have a curse path produce less vulnerable. We felt that the guaranteed unchecked power, regardless of whether you hit or whether the curse works, made for a strong point in exchange for generation balance without making this just Wanderer plus version. Yeah, I mean, I guess the upgraded version still gives you 2, right? So again, it gives you upgrade value. I would maybe like to see Vulnerability Hex Plus have 1 unchecked power with like a 33% chance for 2, right? Like, give me another reason outside of just 2 vulnerable. Because 2 vulnerable is still really powerful. I totally get that. But, like, give me that little bit of, like, ooh, sometimes I get 2 unchecked power. That's really strong. Weakening Curse no longer removes strength and crit tokens from the target. Weakening Curse now applies a debuff that grants the occultist 1 unchecked power if the target attack. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. Is that okay? It doesn't matter who he attacks, right? My curse is a central point ritual's unchecked power generation, allowing them to become Wanderer plus. While it doesn't strip any positive offense tokens, the skill can now passively generate a lot of unchecked power, like particularly where. Oh, okay, so it's any ability. Interesting. While still weakening the target, the right timing can generate an entire stack at once. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I need to play this one. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Removing the fact that it gets rid of any it still weakens them. Okay, right, because this is weakening plus curse. So it still gives them weakened. Cool. It just doesn't remove positive tokens now. Less of an issue. I thought for some reason I was like, oh, it's not going to give them anything now. It still gives them the weaken. I was like, man, it doesn't feel like a weakening curse anymore. Okay, literally still is a weakening curse. Okay. I'm cool with that. I think that's cool. Um, Still needs some work, but you know. Sorry, I'm looking at my review your upcoming auto delivery. See what's my upcoming auto delivery. No, we're good. I'm good for this. Do 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 do. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Okay, cool. I'm fine with that. All right, Warlock. This is a controversial path. I feel like. I think this is the one that a lot of people are like, I don't like this very much. And I can understand why. I've been having fun with it, but I do get why people are not super keen on it. So, oh god, what is happening? My phone is blowing up. Sorry. Whoa, I don't know what that was. Okay. So this path no longer has an inherent minus 20% HP, no longer has an additional chance to just gain unchecked power on turn start. Unchecked power now grants +1 damage per token. This is good. And 1 damage doesn't feel like a lot, like +3 damage. It doesn't feel like a lot, but it scales, right? So anything that multiplies your damage by 50% or whatever is going to multiply that damage as well. So that's going to be good. It now reduces max HP by 10% per token. Up generation was both a feature and a problem. So it was rolled up elsewhere in the path where it can be a feature at a price. The path no longer offers enhanced damage on range skills, previously baked into the damage values, for free, but instead has rolled up the increased damage and HP penalty as components of its unique version of up. I think this is a good idea. Warlock has acquired some small recovery options to assist with his fluctuating max HP, and his beloved positional flexibility and boon potential have been retained. Abyssal Artillery is no longer a pass skill. It was only a pass skill and that had baked in increased damage component. Now it just uses the one. Okay. Chaotic Offering is now a pass skill. Chaotic Offering cannot be actively used during combat. It is a passive. So this is a really big experiment, right? You basically opt into having this ability in your skills, and then you can't click it. It just gives you the passive 30 or 60% chance to generate unchecked power on round start. We're trying an experiment with Chaotic Offering. While the master version provides nearly twice the chance of up power that the old path did, it now comes at the cost of a skill slot, which is a big thing, except for the fact that Warlock generally only click 3 buttons anyway. As long as the skill slot is functionally sacrificed, you can passively generate unchecked power. I really like this idea. I think this is a really cool, again, very give and take, very like, I give you a skill slot, you give me power. Very Warlocky. Love that. Thematic. Cool. Very dull, in just that it just gives you a passive. I don't know what they can do to add some flair to this, but it needs some flair, in my opinion. There's little chaos. There's it's not very chaotic. The chaos is that it like doesn't give you a skill. I think if they were to lean into, and maybe if it gave like a buff or a debuff to random other abilities, like that would be kind of cool. Or like the passive could give you, I don't know, like something like like maybe it just gives you stress, a chance for stress every turn, right? Like I think I know. Again, I'm not trying to just make things more difficult. And people always say, "Well, it's a single player game; things should be powerful," but it just feels dull, right? It can get relationship effect. Yeah, they need to look into that. Like it just needs something. And like I love the idea. I want them to keep this idea of this like passive skill, but it just needs some more flair, either positive or negative, maybe preferably both. Like it can give you has a high chance to give you 1 stress per round, but also has a chance to lower you by 2 stress per round every round or something like that. That could be fun, right? Like that's just like this idea that he's like holding this like, and it comes at a great boon, like generating unchecked power every round, 60% chance. Maybe increase it to like 66% chance and 33% chance if you're going to make it like a bit more chaotic. I think that's really cool. It just needs something, but I'm really glad they're trying this because this is a really cool concept, and I think it's a really different way of doing things, and it gives some uniqueness. Just needs some flair. That's all. Demon's Pull is no longer a pass skill. It's just saying that it doesn't have any additional damage. decreases your health on Warlock. It does, and I get that. That is a downside. I just still think that this ability is it just is missing something. It's missing something besides just the random or the passive generation was boring on old Warlock. This just feels boring to me too. I love the idea of it. I love the idea. I think it just needs something. That's just me personally. I mean, other people may disagree. So, I just think, yeah, I think it's too linear for it being chaotic. Like I can generate up in different ways if I really wanted to. Maybe not as nearly as reliable, but I could still do it. Sack Stab is now a pass skill. Retains the previous Wanderer damage. Previous Wanderer damage does not grant up on kill. Keep older, less tight damage from Wanderer used to have. In addition, the kill effect for unchecked power is removed to help balance out generation methods. Word reconstruction on this is like the most powerful word reconstruction. Upgraded weird reconstruction gives 2 regen when consuming unchecked power. This basically negates the bleed if it does apply, and if it doesn't apply to the bleed, you get regen, which is crazy. Often reduced HP Warlock gets the safety net version of Weird Reconstruction. We consider just having it skip the bleed since Warlock's HP is often being driven down by the unchecked power, but opted for a regen at the same as the bleed value instead. This gives more ways to interact with or influence the skill's results. I love it. I think it's fun. No notes. Anamnesis is now a pass skill. Anamnesis launch ranks are now all the back ranks. Interesting. It is no longer an AoE skill. Very interesting. Ignores block, dodge, stealth, and guard. It now removes all positive tokens from the target. Damage reduced to 1 plus unchecked power damage bonus, so it does like very little damage. And then this deals an additional 1 damage for each positive token on the target. Gains double the damage on Anamnesis Plus granted by unchecked power tokens. We wanted to do something unique for Warlock's Anamnesis, so opted to do a form of positive token dot bomb capable of ignoring any defense tokens and applying very specific damage. This gives a single target damage option when certain defenses are in play that you prefer not to gamble on. Unlike traditional dot bombs, this does not expunge the source, only ignored tokens traditionally removed by a damaging tag, and is compatible with tokens such as... How is this a dot? I don't understand what this means by dots, right? Dot bomb. Oh, it's a dot bomb. Okay, like as in like it takes all the dot and turns it into a single source of damage, except it just does this a positive. Okay. Only the ignored tokens traditionally removed by a damaging attack and its compatible tokens such as strength, crit, and weak. Okay. Interesting. I need to play with this. Yeah, anti-barricade and militia skill for sure, yeah. Burning Stars Plus no longer ignore block. They no longer apply combo. BS unchecked power requirement has been increased. Burning Stars damage or crit has been reduced to 5%. The damage has been decreased. This is probably to compensate for the additional damage you get from having the +3 that you need to use this anyway. Now gains double the damage granted by... Okay, yeah. So if you have 3 tokens, you get +6 damage. So the max now becomes 24, so it does more damage. Burning Stars was often the star of the Warlock show, so they had to keep and improve its maximum boom potential and making it a bit harder to attain. It's now subject to all defensive tokens, but can deliver crushing damage to the undefended. Malediction is now a pass skill. Apply. Okay, this is one of the wonkiest things I've ever seen. Again, this is good experimenting. It's just weird, and I don't know how I feel about it. I love it and I hate it at the same time. Malediction applies a debuff with a 50% chance to heal an attacker for 10% when the target is hit for 2 rounds, and it applies a debuff with a 33% chance to heal the target for 10% when the target is hit for 2 rounds. They're rolled independently, so there's a chance that only one of them sticks, which is really weird to me. But basically how this works is the enemy gets a debuff, right? And that debuff is when you hit them, there's a chance that you heal them and also a chance that you heal the person attacking. It's a funny gambling thing. When you upgrade it, the chances go more in your favor, like more for healing you, less for healing the enemy. Or it stays the same for the enemy and doubles the chance or increases it like by what, 13%, 16% for you. Yeah, you can heal the final boss for 100. That's crazy. Say a recovery skill on weaker enemies. Yeah, I think really the place for this is like land this on like the Lord Have one enemy just keep him blind or weakened, and then just use the next 2 rounds to let everybody like do a little bit of damage and just give themselves some chip healing. I think that's the idea behind this. Um, it's interesting, and I think it's funny, and I like it. I just think it like people are gonna get mad about it because they're gonna be like, "Oh no, I healed the final boss for 100." I'm like, why are you? Why? That's something you need to take into accommodation when you're doing this. Nobody gambles with healing quite like the Occultist does, and that inspired this Warlock version of Malediction, where the heal has no threshold, but also risk of backfiring by healing the enemy. I think this is funny. I just don't think it's going to get used very much. All right. The final Occultist path. This path no longer has the inherent additional health and inherent debuff resistance. This path no longer gains block on combat start. This path now has a 66% chance to generate unchecked power when the Occultist moves. We have Dancing Occultists now. Up on this path, additionally grants additional health per token. Additionally grants a 25% chance per token to apply to immobilize. This effect is resistible. I believe this was, I think it's still to immobilize. Aspirin has undergone a number of changes to intend its retain as a front rank capability while enhancing his mobility and filling an off-requested dot roll. His former HP bonus has been rolled into unchecked power, and he uses a very different method of up generation compared to other paths. Binding Shadows damage has been reduced. Binding Shadows now ignores stealth. Okay. Binding Shadows no longer reduces debuff resist when the target has comboed, and no longer has a chance to grant unchecked power because he gets that from moving, which Binding Shadows now grants 1 stealth when the target has combo 2. Okay, this is very much similar to the Wanderer. I've had their damage reevaluated given the ease in which he now generates up through them. Binding Shadows has otherwise acquired the stealth defensive capabilities of the Wanderer version. Sack Stab damage has been reduced. Sack Stab no longer generates up when the target has combo. Sack Stab now moves the Occultist back 1 rank, and I think Binding Shadows moves him forward 1 rank, right? Something like that. Sack Stab now grants 1 block if the target dies. Now grants 1 block plus if the target dies. Now gains additional damage versus corpses. I guess this is a decent way to generate block tokens. Like you can kill a corpse and get a block token. Yeah, killing blows to enhance the rank survivability. Vulnerability Hex no longer is a pass skill. Weakening Curse is no longer a pass skill. Neither of his standard curses have penalized debuff resist piercing any longer and have been returned to the Wanderer version accordingly. Weird Reconstruction now clears all dots when consuming unchecked power. Feel appropriate to have the bonus unchecked power effect Aspirin Cleanse. This also provides a rare non-Plague Doctor option for broad dot removal. Yeah, I'm curious as to if that dot removal applies after he applies the bleed or before it. So, like, can you apply the bleed and just immediately remove it if you use, like, up? If you don't, does he still have the chance to just remove all the dots and then leave him with a bleed? I don't know. Nemesis is no longer a path skill. Aspirin only increased the damage of an Nemesis in the past in the base Wanderer version skill. Burning Stars is now a path skill. The damage has been reduced pretty drastically, I might say. It does not ignore block. It clears dots before the bleed. Okay. Burning Stars is now a burn skill. Burn Hero, finally. Now applies 4 burn for 3 turns. Now copies the burn from the Occultist onto the target, which is hilarious, by the way. We've received a lot of requests for the version of Burning Stars that inflicted burn, so here it is, with a bit of unique Occultist flavor when mastered. We finally got it. I'm excited for this. I think this is cool. This opens up a lot of options for Runaway, a lot of options for Crusader. I know it's still going to be tough to get the burn to happen often, but honestly, this version of Occultist can generate a lot of up very quickly, especially with a team that moves around him, not just himself. So I think this is fine. Malediction is now a pass skill based on the pre-patch version of Malediction. The following adjustments: it ignores dodge, it has debuff resist piercing, increase the amount of bleed, blight, or burn applied from 2 to 3, no longer reduces the resistance. Malediction is the roll to inflict dots, not the roll to land the debuff. So Malediction Plus are generally capable of bypassing most, if not all, debuff resistance levels without assistance. We remove the burn resist debuff applied with mastery, but increase the dot value instead to give it a little bit more punch. Okay. So yeah, I think overall pretty good. Occultist has gone through a lot of changes, but that's kind of the point. So I'm excited for the changes. I'm excited to give them a shot, which we'll be doing today. But yeah, Plague Doctor. We only have one path that's been upgraded, and that is Wonder at this point. So they basically upgraded her base kit, so that way they could expand from it. But some interesting changes. The core kit of Plague Doctor has undergone some revisions to improve some older utility skills, as well as account for the recent changes to crits and dots. Some additional adjustments have been made to slightly loosen positioning restrictions in some cases and promote more party composition options. Her health has been increased by 4 hit points. That's big. Blinding Gas crit has been increased to 15%. Cause of Death skills now on base does 100% of dots. Really, really cool. Upgraded does 150% of dots. This, I believe, is probably to compensate for the change in that crits no longer give additional dot, but it no longer applies combo. That's fine. I never really understood that anyway. And it now has execution value of 1 on upgrade, which I think is huge, by the way. We wanted to make some small thematic updates. In addition, we're aware that much of the value of dot bombing is driven by crits, increasing the total dot value on the target. As of this patch, crits no longer influence the duration of dots, so we've increased cause of death damage to help offset some of the perceived loss, while also making it less reliant on crits overall. Massive change. I think no notes. 8, good, excellent, good stuff. Disorienting Blast now removes all guard from the target. This is really powerful. Does it ignore block or guard? It has to ignore guard for it to be hit, right? So Disorienting Blast plus crit increase, or crit has been increased, adding a little more mastery value for a skill that deals no damage and provide. Yeah, so the crit value is basically that it crits, or the upgrade value is that it crits more. Okay. Emboldening Vapors, strength tokens have been increased from 1 to 2, which is really good on both levels. Does not ignore guard, really? Interesting. I'm pretty sure they're aware of that, though. I know there's been a conversation that's happened about this, but I don't think it's happened in public channels yet. So, I'm unsure. I'll have to see about that. Doing this while is not the proper rework, because that's just, they need more time for this to cook, right? I think you got to realize that we have extremely limited time to make this many changes. So I think they're just like, we had this ready. We're putting it out there now so we can get the initial feedback. And then as people give that feedback, that'll adjust how they give the changes to paths. They're doing a lot of changes in a very small amount of time. They don't have time to play around with like, well, we'll hold off on it. Like if this one was ready to go, they're going to put it out there. They did this PD stuff last minute. I will caution people to be a little bit like just understanding of how much they're trying to change in a very small period of time. I understand that maybe some of these changes feel rushed. They kind of are. But that's kind of what they have to do in order to make the changes, like give you guys time to sit with the changes and then go, no, that's just bad. And then they go, okay, cool. Now we have time to work around it. I'd rather have more time to play with the changes than not. So yeah, it's stuff like this is gonna feel rushed, and this, I'll tell you right now, this is how beta testing works. I've been a beta tester for this game for a long time. A lot of this stuff gets kind of like, this is a rough pass. This is a very rough pass. All of this is a rough pass, and that's kind of the point. This is not the final form of anything, and things are extremely open to change at this point, and I hope they do make some large changes. But it's better than nothing, right? So I think, yeah, like the fact that this doesn't ignore guard needs to be added. Like that's silly that it doesn't, because how can you remove guard if you can't hit the guard to target, right? Emboldening Vapors now removes all days and stun prior to applying a speed token. I like that. It removes all days. That's good. That feels fun. Emboldening Vapors cooldown has been increased from 0 to 1. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Incision now deals +1 increased bleed duration when the target is comboed. So here we see the increased duration coming into effect. In addition to the pre-existing bleed resist piercing. So it also has bleed resist piercing. Okay. Noxious Blast Blight reduced from 6 to 5, but the crit has been increased. This is probably just to make it less extremely powerful. I'm not sure how I feel about it overall, but we'll see. Maybe the increase, we still have to see what they're going to do with Alchemist, right? So the base path probably is going to have less Blight to accommodate for Alchemist having more Blight. But it now increases 1 Blight duration when the target has combos, so that's where you get it back. OOP changes. The ranks have been changed to allow her to do it from rank 2. The debuff has been increased from 15 to 20 and 25 to 30. These are huge changes, by the way, for people who love percentages. And I also grants debuff resist piercing. This is huge. Or debuff resistance. This is big against the baby fight. I know this is Zero doing this part. He loves his OOP. So I think that's really good. But yeah, these are definitely some rush changes at the end here. We'll see how these kind of sit, and then we'll get some updates on it. But yeah, that's gonna be that's a lot. Oh, that was over an hour of me yapping about it. But I think a lot of really interesting changes. Definitely think there's some stuff that Occultist needs to get looked at again. But the longer that we have with him, I'm kind of surprised they didn't run Leper first, honestly, because I feel like he needs the most changes. But maybe they want to just get these out of the way so they can like let Leper sit for like 2 weeks and work on him. Yeah, OOP is really good. It's one of my favorite abilities in the game. I definitely, when I lean on it and it works, it's great. Obviously, people dislike percentages because it's like not guaranteed, but making people have like 60, 70% resistances to dots, like just on the upgraded version, is like, that's crazy. Cultist feels like 3 different characters. I think that's kind of how it's supposed to be, right? Like, that's how the paths should feel. They should feel very distinct from one another. And hopefully we can lean into it and have some fun with them. But yeah, so that's going to cover that. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. Definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed to the channel and all that fun stuff on the YouTube side of things. I appreciate y'all because you're watching this on YouTube probably.